The call from Emily pierced the morning's quiet rhythm just as I stood before the pharmacy shelves, my fingers hovering between remedies for a troubled stomach. Ryan, ever the project lead, had once again surrendered to the obligatory toasts of a corporate dinner, leaving me to play medic in the aftermath. Last night, after he'd stumbled home, I tried reaching him through the cold glow of video calls, only to be met with silence. But in the small hours, my phone had lit up with a string of messages, each one a quiet plea from a man who stood 6 feet tall yet could fold into himself like a wounded animal. Zoe, my stomach hurts. I could almost see him curled beneath the duvet, a great, suffering creature seeking comfort in the dark. A smile touched my lips, soundless and fond. Who would believe that Ryan, the man who commanded boardrooms with a glance, could be so disarmingly vulnerable when the world wasn't watching? Rising before the sun, I'd prepared a pot of seafood congee, the recipe one of many I'd absorbed growing up as the daughter of a physician. My mother's world of medicine had seeped into mine, and now it was Ryan who reaped the benefits. His stomach, fragile from years of professional drinking, demanded a caretaker's patience. I'd become that for him, keeper of remedies, maker of meals, a quiet presence in the shadow of his ambition. With the congee sealed in a thermal bag, I set out for his apartment, the morning still soft with half-light. But as I neared his building, the memory of his pain resurfaced, steering my steps toward the pharmacy. Emily's words drifted back to me. You're like his second mother. And not without reason. No one else would trace these steps for him. No one else would hold both the medicine and the meal. The elevator settled on the 6th floor with a gentle sigh, and Emily's voice continued in my ear, a steady thread through the morning's purpose. By the way, why didn't you come to our class reunion last night? It was our 8th anniversary. I even brought you a bottle of low-alcohol fruit wine I froze. What reunion? Emily sounded shocked. What do you mean you didn't know? My boyfriend asked Ryan to pass the message along and bring you to. Ryan came, but you didn't show up. My heart skipped a beat. Didn't he tell me he had a company dinner last night? Emily paused. Oh, and guess who else was there? Alex. At first I thought maybe you skipped out because you didn't want to run into him, but it looks like Ryan never even told you about it. I stopped in my tracks. That name, I hadn't heard it in years. Back in high school, Alex was my closest friend. I told him everything, every secret, every feeling, including how he had been in love with my childhood friend Ryan since I was 15. I remember him being silent for a moment, then smiling slightly. You should focus on your studies for now, he said. I understood. Ryan had great grades. He was aiming for Harvard, and I wasn't doing too badly myself, though I wasn't quite there yet. I believed that if I worked hard enough, I could get into the same university as him. When I finally received my acceptance letter from Harvard, I was so excited. I ran to tell Ryan, planning to finally confess my feelings. But what I saw at the end of the alley under the awning was him kissing Grace. My ears buzzed. I could only hear my own short, broken breaths. Every breath made my chest ache. Later, Alex told me that he and Ryan had actually been together for a while. Because I had said I liked Ryan, he felt conflicted and didn't know if he should tell me the truth, so he kept it from me. Zoe, he said, I didn't want to lose Ryan, but I didn't want to hurt you either. I lowered my head, my eyes stinging with tears. My feelings for Ryan became a secret I could no longer speak out loud. That summer, they started dating openly, but they still liked to invite me along. Grace was radiant and full of life, and Ryan looked at her with such deep affection. But what he didn't realize was, while he was looking at her, I was looking at him. I had traced the lines of his face in my heart countless times. My eyes felt like they'd been washed by rain, wet with sadness. I was the one who met Ryan first, just before my tears could fall. Grace lifted her camera and handed it to Miss Zoe. Take some pictures of me and Ryan, would you? Her lips were slightly curled, and with her other hand she clung tightly to Ryan's arm like she was claiming him. I lowered my eyes and took the camera. Ryan smiled at me with his arm around her shoulders. Thanks, Zoe. The two of them looked perfect through the lens. His smile was bright and carefree. He really did like Grace, and in that moment, as I pressed the shutter, I stepped out of the love triangle for good. As time passed, I gradually drifted away from both of them. Later, Ryan and I got into Harvard, while Grace went far away to the University of California, San Diego. Before she left, she smiled and told Ryan to take good care of me, saying she'd come back to visit us when she could. But I didn't think much of it. I simply kept a polite but distant relationship with Ryan. Then 4 years later, Grace didn't keep her promise to return when she broke up with Ryan over the phone. I was right on the other side of the wall and heard every word. Ryan, usually so calm and composed, was uncharacteristically emotional, pressing her with questions, but all she did was let out a light laugh and said, Ryan, don't be childish. No one can stay by your side forever. She paused for a moment. Then if anyone would, it could only be Zoe. Maybe you two should give it a try. Of course, I never got together with Ryan, But seeing how he grew thinner and more worn down each day, I couldn't help but feel bad every morning. I dragged him out to run or hike, exhausting every bit of his energy, then would have a big meal, go home, take a shower and collapse into sleep after 2 months. His skin had tanned a bit, but the light in his eyes had returned. From that point on, we returned to the kind of close and familiar relationship we'd had for over a... Ryan never mentioned Grace's name again, and I never brought her up either. It had already been 3 years since that name last surfaced in my life. Now, hearing Emily mentioned her again out of the blue, I couldn't help but feel like something important was quietly slipping away from me. I stayed silent for a long while, and Emily's voice grew anxious. "Zoe, are you listening?" I didn't respond. My steps slowed as I leaned gently against the door to Ryan's apartment. Inside, I could hear him talking with someone else. "Come on, Ryan. Stop overthinking it. Zoe's amazing. She's been by your side for so many years. Everyone can see how much she likes you. Don't mess things up just because Grace is back." I instinctively held my breath. The person speaking was our old classmate, Daniel. The same guy Emily always called her man. He was also one of the few who knew the full story between me, Ryan and Grace. Ryan's voice sounded hoarse, probably from drinking too much last night. He always forgot to cover himself with a blanket when he drank, and the next morning he'd wake up with a runny nose and a sore throat. Just like now, his hoarse tone carried a hint of exhaustion. "I know Zoe's great," he said, "but when someone throws themselves at you, it always feels like something's missing. It just doesn't compare to the satisfaction of pursuing someone yourself." A chill slowly crept into my chest. My hands and feet began to tremble, my palms slick with sweat. It felt like I just been punched. My mind went blank. I never thought Ryan would say something like that about me. I looked down at the medicine and the warm, fragrant seafood kanji I was holding. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. One text about a stomachache and I got up early to make porridge and buy medicine. If that's not throwing myself at him, then what is? Ryan wasn't wrong. After Ali slowly backed away from the door, turned around and pressed the elevator button to go downstairs. As I passed by the trash bin at the bottom of the building, I didn't hesitate to throw the medicine away. When I got home, I started cleaning out everything in my apartment that was related to Ryan. The stuffed animals he gave me, the anime figures we bought together at conventions, the birthday presents he gave me over the years, in countless photos. I gathered them all up to throw out to say goodbye to the past. I had to first clear out the memories. I never expected Grace to reach out to me on her own. Since I didn't go to the reunion last night, she said she was disappointed, so today she offered Totri at a few of our classmates in town to another small gathering. I was about to politely decline when she cut me off. "Zoe, it's been so many years already. You're not still mad at me? Are you mad at her for stealing the guy I liked?" But that's not something she could have done alone. In the end, it all came down to one simple: Ryan didn't love me. No one was really at fault. I pressed my lips together and in the end agreed to go. Grace had chosen a place on the outskirts of the city known for its beautiful scenery. The setting was quiet and serene when I arrived. Ryan was talking with Daniel and Emily. As soon as he saw me, Ryan stood up and instinctively moved toward Meadow. "Take my coat and bag," but I subtly stepped away. "It's okay, I'll put it down myself." He froze for a moment, his right hand awkwardly suspended in the air. I ignored him. After setting down my things, I sat on Emily's right side. On her left was Daniel and next to him was Ryan. Normally, whenever we ate together, I would always sit beside Ryan. He frowned, his eyes scanning me with a look of puzzled inquiry. Emily noticed something, too, and leaned over to Zoe. "What's going on?" I gave her a faint smile and said nothing. I just suddenly figured things out. I used to think that liking Ryan was my own business, something that belonged to me alone. That's why even 8 years ago when I saw him kissing Grace, I wasn't all that devastated. I believed I could still give him my genuine blessing. Later, after they broke up, I came back to his side again to keep him company, encourage him, care for him, love him, and give to him. It had all become a habit, but what I had ignored was that maybe my habit had become a burden to Ryan. He called it throwing myself at him, and suddenly it felt like my 10 years of affection had become a joke, a valley that never echoes, isn't worth leaping into. Rather than continuing to fur up my feelings just to have them trampled, I might as well take them back and give them to someone who actually needs them. Grace showed up late as usual. Her beauty hadn't changed. If anything, the passing years had added a graceful maturity to her presence. She wore a modernized chunksome style dress, her hair loosely pinned up with a decorative hair stick. Her every move was more relaxed than I remembered. The moment she saw me, she pointed at my t-shirt and jeans and shook her head. "All these years, and you're still dressing like a high schooler, Zoe." I smiled back and made small talk. "Thanks for saying I still look young." She gave a vague shrug and turned, lightly taking the seat next to Ryan. With practiced ease, she called the waiter to bring out some wine. Ryan stopped her gently. "Don't drink any more. Doesn't your stomach hurt when you drink?" I'll have to go buy medicine for you again. There was a hint of reproach in his words, but his tone was soft, filled with a kind of tenderness I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. Ryan also got stomachaches from drinking, but when it happened, he would just text me, "Zoe, my stomach hurts," and I would bring him warm kanji and medicine without being asked. But now for Grace's stomach, he suddenly knew how to buy the medicine himself. So this is the difference between love and no love. Grace smiled brightly. It's fine, I'm happy today, so I'll just drink a little as long as I enjoy my... Since she insisted, he didn't push further with Grace. He always had endless patience. I tilted my head back and down the rest of my drink. Then Ryan stood up abruptly and reached across the entire table to take away the iced Coke in front of me. "Do you even know what day it is?" Still drinking something cold. His voice was tight, stern, and completely lacking the patience and gentleness he just shown Grace. My temper flared. "I don't think that's any of your business, is it, Zoe? If you end up with a stomachache, don't come crying to me," he snapped. I scoffed. "Don't worry, I won tea." At that moment, Ryan finally seemed to notice something was wrong. He was just about to speak when Grace pulled something out of her bag and set it on the table in front of him. "Oh, I almost forgot your watch. You left it at my place last night." Then she scolded him playfully. "Honestly, how many years has it been? You're still so careless." The entire table fell silent. Ryan looked at me and in his eyes I saw a flicker of panic. "Zoe. Last night, Zoe. Don't get the wrong idea. I drank too much at the class reunion and Ryan was just worried about Mezzo. He took me back to the hotel. The watch, it must have accidentally been left in my room. Please don't overthink it." Grace rushed to explain, but the more she said, the worse it sounded. She didn't know that Ryan never told me about the reunion, or maybe she did and just pretended not to. And finally, I understood the purpose of this whole dinner. Someone had taken the wrong path, gotten on the wrong train, and now they wanted to get back on track. I raised an eyebrow and looked at Grace. "Whether it was accidental or not, I'm not going to overthink it. It's neither necessary nor worth it." The table fell into an awkward silence, until Daniel stood up and poured a glass of wine for Grace. "Grace, it's been years. I'm really glad to see you again. Let me toast to that first. When are you heading back to California? Let us know. Us guys will send you off properly." Grace smiled and finished the wine in one go, then casually dropped a bomb. "I'm not planning to leave this time." She looked at Ryan with soft, lingering eyes. "Because I don't want to miss the important people in my life again." Daniel and Emily exchanged a glance, looking clearly unsettled. Emily, with a half smile that didn't reach her eyes, asked lightly, "I heard your design studio in California had taken over an entire floor in the Heng building. That's a huge accomplishment. You're really just going to walk away from that?" Everyone at the table knew what she was implying, without saying it out loud. "Leasing an entire floor in the Hengyu building, that's premium real estate. Tens of thousands per square meter annually." Grace had only been able to afford that because Herex was the owner of Hengyu Group. She'd been with him for years. There were even rumors they were about to get married. Then for reasons unknown, the wedding was called off not long after she came back. Color drained from Grace's face in an instant. I knew Emily's question was deliberately sharp. She was doing it to stand up for me. Daniel and Ryan were best friends because of that. Daniel and I had been close since high school. Later, when he started dating Emily, she and I became best friends. Too, Emily didn't know the full history between me, Ryan and Grace. Only bits and pieces Daniel had told her, but she had always carried a fierce resentment toward Grace for stealing Ryan and then dumping him. Grace's lips trembled as she bit down hard on her lower lip, her face turning visibly strained. Ryan slammed his chopsticks on the table. "Is anyone actually gonna eat or what?" His expression turned cold, brows furrowed. Even the way he looked at Emily showed irritation, but Emily wasn't fazed at all. She calmly picked up some food and smiled coolly. "Well, I wasn't the one who started saying things that ruined the appetite, was I?" Then she wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "I'm the type who can't stand seeing my best friend upset, so if my girl's not happy, don't blame me for making things uncomfortable." Ryan's cold gaze turned toward me. "Zoe, is your heart really that small? Did I say I was going to get back together with Grace?" Emily rolled her eyes. "Who knows? Your judgment's never been that great." Finally, tears began to fall from Grace's eyes. She stood up, head down, her tears pattering audibly onto the table. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come back. I'm gonna go." She staggered slightly as she turned to leave. Ryan's face went completely cold. He stood, grabbed his coat, and before walking out after her, he looked at me and said just one sentence, "Zoe, you've really disappointed me." When I got home, I began gathering every last thing related to Ryan from the doorway, placing them one by one into a trash bag. When I threw out the last bag downstairs, I let out a long breath. Turns out giving up on someone you've loved for so long isn't as hard as I thought. I went back upstairs, changed clothes, and took a shower. My whole body felt lighter, Like a burden had finally been lifted right before bed, I instinctively picked up my phone to scroll a bit. That's when I saw a message from Grace. It was a photo. Ryan in a hotel bathrobe, his hair still damp, sitting on the balcony. His eyes were vacant, lost in thought. The right person, no matter how many circles they've gone in, will always find their way back. She wrote, Zoe, you lost again. My heart stung for just a second. Then it let go. Maybe this is what people call fate. Until today, I had always believed that Ryan and I would end up together eventually. After all these years, there hadn't been a single other woman close to him on my birthdays. He was always the first to wish me at midnight. During my period, he remembered the dates more accurately than I did, constantly reminding me not to eat cold food. In our senior year of college, he even tore up a love letter from a younger guy who had a crush on me, clearly annoyed. Later, after we both started working, I rented an apartment close to the Campanito, make commuting easier. When Ryan found out, he rented a place in the same complex. Even Daniel joked, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't your company provide housing for employees at your level? What are you doing moving into Zoe's neighborhood? What's your angle? Ryan just smiled. He didn't explain, and in my heart, I was nervous, but he showed no sign of. Back then, I didn't understand that not answering was already an answer in itself. I thought if I waited long enough, he'd be moved. It wasn't until much later that I realized someone who truly cares about you will always make the first move. I opened my contacts, blocked both Ryan and Grace, and told myself, call it petty if you want. I just didn't want to keep hurting myself anymore, whether in friendship or in love. Moving forward with unresolved regret is a skill you have to learn, and I believe I'll learn it well. The next day when I arrived at work, I opened the internal Elvisdom and submitted my resignation. 2 minutes later, the phone on my desk rang. Ryan's voice came through cold and clipped. Zoe, yay, come to my office right now. I let out alongside, stood up at work. Ryan was my direct supervisor 3 years ago. After graduation, he had chosen to join this large multinational corporation. He told me then, Zoe, my team really needs people, come work with me. So I gave up the idea of grad school and followed him here without hesitation. 4 years, my whole career had revolved around him. Maybe it really was time to move on, but what I didn't expect was for Ryan to lose his temper. Zoe, can you stop being so childish? You're quitting just because of a little drama. Grace is still our classmate. What happened yesterday? Don't you think you all went too far? I nodded. Yeah, it was too far, way too far. That's exactly why I don't feel right working under you anymore, so please approve the resignation. I need to start handing things over. Ryan pressed his fingers to his temples. Zoe, that's not what I meant. Just take it as me saying something stupid yesterday. Withdraw the application. I'll pretend I never saw it. I smiled. Ryan, I'm not trying to play hard to get. I really do want to resign, you know. I've always wanted to go to grad school. I just feel like now is finally the right time. He let out a short mocking laugh. You've been working for 3 years, and now you're suddenly telling me you want to go back to school. He stared at me, his face tinged with disdain, and in that moment, I realized somewhere in the last 3 years, we stopped speaking the same language. He stood there in a perfectly tailored suit, a luxury watch on his wrist. Every movement he made carried the arrogance and subtle pressure of someone in power. I looked down at my plain cotton polo shirt and thought of what Grace had said last night. Different circles don't have to blend, Mr. Ryan, I said calmly. I never believe there's a right age for learning. You know that saying the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is now. I'm only 25. My future still holds infinite possibilities. This place might not be the best option after all, don't you think? Ryan narrowed his eyes slightly as he stared at Mezzo. Yeah, so you're really set on leaving? I nodded and tapped the desktop in front of him. Please approve and sign. I need to move forward with the rest of the process. Ryan slowly released the fists he'd been clenching. He gave me a cold glance, his voice emotionless. Zoya, don't regret this. As the approval notification buzzed on my phone, I let out a quiet breath. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. He slammed the mouse down on his desk. Get out. After that, I spent my days at home in total peace. I slept in, ate leisurely meals, cleaned my apartment, and spent hours reading. I hadn't lied to Ryan. I really was preparing for grad school 3 years ago. I gave up on it for him. My advisor back then was genuinely disappointed. Now everything was simply getting back on track. After lunch each day, I would go to the Harvard Library to study. Grad school prep was, in truth, incredibly tedious, but Harvard had the biggest library in the city, and it was always filled with students preparing for civil service exams or grad school. An environment that made it easier to focus and stay motivated. That is, if not for the distractingly handsome guys sitting directly across from me. It had been 3 days in a row that same guy always sat in front of me, and a circle of blushing girls surrounded him, sneaking glances and whispering about him. Today, I arrived later than usual and couldn't even find a seat. As I was scanning the room for an empty spot, the guy closed his book and said, I'm heading out, you can take my seat. His long, pale fingers tapped the chair in front of him. I looked up. He was in a track suit, headphones hanging around his neck, glasses perched on his sharp nose. When he lifted his deep-set eyes to glance at me, I nodded in slight gratitude. His features were striking: strong brows, defined nose, crimson lips, a face that looked like it had been drawn with a sword. He picked up his messenger bag and his toned, lean arm brushed past my shoulder. As he left, my cheeks warmed instantly, and I quickly sat down, covering my face with my hand. Not long after he left, the girls who had been hanging around slowly dispersed. That's when I noticed he'd left behind the book he'd been reading. It was a love letter from Junichi Inagi. A slip of paper was sticking out from one of the pages. I curiously opened it. Inside was a bookmark, and on it was a handwritten note. Hi, my name is Jessie Jiang SR at Harvard. Sorry if this is intrusive, but I've wanted to get to know you for a long time. If you're open to it, I'd love to be friends. There's a window seat at the cafe on the east side of the library's first floor. The view's really nice. Would you come take a look? I closed the book slowly. Thoughtful Jesse was the kind of person who noticed everything when I was with him. I barely had to worry about if we went out. He'd already have plans and routes figured out. He always remembered what I liked to eat when we walked together. He'd stay half a step behind, just close enough for me to turn my head and see him listening carefully whatever I was saying. Unlike being with Ryan, where I always had to chase after his pace, he'd storm ahead like he had somewhere to be, never noticing how far behind I was. Jesse was the complete opposite. He was 3 years younger than me, yet incredibly thoughtful. Even though he didn't have morning classes on Thursdays, he still got up early every week, crossing half the city just to bring me breakfast. I'd once casually mentioned I missed spicy beef soup, stir-fried rice noodles and crab soup dumplings. Jesse brought me all kinds of savory pancakes, rice noodle rolls, bamboo leaf sticky rice dumplings, never repeating the same thing twice. I ate his breakfast for 3 straight months. Every time I tried to transfer him money, it was refunded. When I offered to treat him to a meal, he refused. If you're gonna spend that money, you might as well buy ingredients. I'll cook for you instead. He'd said I'm actually pretty good at it, but in the end it was still him who bought all the groceries, 2 full bags, which he lifted easily with one hand. I laughed. It must be nice being young, having endless energy. His face flushed. Readers, if something I said had struck a nerve, he didn't respond, just kept walking beside me with a flustered look. We were still joking around and chatting as we entered my apartment complex when we ran right into Ryan and Grace, who were walking out of their building. They were side by side, looking every bit like the perfect couple. The smile on my face instantly disappeared. Ryan's expression had been neutral, but the moment he saw me, it darkened. I had zero interest in greeting them and nudged Jesse to keep walking. Ryan called my name, clearly agitated. I sighed and said to Jesse, "Go on up first, I'll be there in a bit, just need to talk to a friend real quick." Jesse glanced at Ryan, who was striding up behind us, then gave me a small nod and without asking any questions, walked toward my building with the bags in hand. "Zoe." "Yay," Ryan barked, grabbing my arm. His palm was hot against my skin, and I instinctively pulled away. Stepping back, "I don't think I need to report my private life to you," I said. His face turned icy. "So now you've got guts, huh? You're bringing a guy home with you, a single woman and a single man alone in the same apartment. Do you think that sounds respectable?" I glanced at Grace behind him but said nothing. Ryan's tone stiffened as he tried to explain. "She just left something at my place, that's all." I shrugged. "Whatever your personal life is, none of my business either. Now, if there's nothing else, I'm going." Grace came up and tugged at Ryan's arm. "Zoe's already bringing someone home, so don't make a scene," she said with a smug little laugh, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. "We all get it." Ryan yanked his arm away, his face stone cold. He pointed a finger at Ms. Zoe. "I'm warning you, don't be so casual or one day you'll regret it." Without thinking, I kicked him hard in the shin while he was doubling over in pain. I darted into my building like a gust of wind. "Absolute lunatics," I muttered. "You two are a perfect match." Far away, Ryan stood there watching Grace catch up to him, panting from trying to keep up. For the first time, he felt a deep disgust toward himself, toward the version of him who had acted on impulse. "Grace," he said coldly, "let's not keep in touch anymore. I don't want you ruining what's left between me and Zoe." He gave her a sharp look. "Go back to California and keep your mouth shut." The elevator opened. Meanwhile, Jesse was leaning against the wall by my front door, his eyebrows tightly furrowed. When he heard the elevator ding, he looked up sharply, and the moment he saw me, his face softened. His Adam's apple moved slightly as he swallowed. "I thought maybe you weren't coming back." I was already full of pent-up frustration. "You're a weirdo, too." Jesse's dark eyes focused on me, and then he slowly smiled, just like he promised. His cooking was amazing. After Scarfing down everything, I leaned back with satisfaction and patted my stomach. Jessie, I swear I don't know who's lucky enough to marry you in the future. You're handsome, smart, and on top of that, your cooking is next level. I teased him half jokingly. What do you think about me? I mean, yeah, I'm older than you, but hey, 3 years older. Hold a gold bar, right? Jessie froze for a moment as if I just said something completely outrageous. His pupils shrank. I must have scared the poor guy. I quickly waved my hand, about to say I was just joking, but before the words even left my mouth, Jessie quietly said, "You said it yourself." While I stood there stunned, he had already gotten up and efficiently started clearing the pots, dishes and utensils, carrying them into the kitchen to wash. Boys these days really are something so hard-working, not like Ryan. After all the meals we'd shared growing up, I never saw that golden boy lift a single finger. As I rubbed my full belly, I suddenly realized something. Even when I thought about Ryan now, the bitterness and heartache I used to feel were barely there anymore. Even when I bumped into him and Grace coming out of his place earlier, my heart hadn't stirred at all. I leaned over and glanced at Jess's tall figure standing in the kitchen, focused on cleaning. I couldn't help but sigh. There's only so much space in one's life. If someone new comes in, someone else naturally has to leave. Jesse really was a good guy. When he finished washing the dishes, he even cut up some fruit and brought it out. I was munching happily when he suddenly said, "You know, you have to keep your word, huh?" I asked, puzzled. He handed me his phone. On the screen was a freshly posted moment on his social feed, "Girlfriend," with a picture of me sitting on the couch smiling with a bowl of. In just a few minutes, the post had already been flooded with likes and comments. People from his school really were so direct and bold in their affection. For the first time, I felt like I could understand what it meant to be loved out loud. I picked up my phone, took a photo of Jess's side profile and posted it with a single word, "boyfriend." Not long after I posted, Emily called me, "Damn girl, where'd you find this perfect younger guy?" Her voice was shrill and excited, so I held the phone a little farther from my ear. Jessie realized I was talking to a friend and stood up, preparing to leave. "I'll head out now. Lock up and get some rest, okay?" I covered the mic and said goodbye to him quietly. On the other end, Emily exaggerated, "Zoe, is your boy toy still there? It's getting late. I won't bother you to have fun." I hung up quickly, cheeks burning. Jessie laughed, clearly amused, then reached out and ruffled my hair before giving me a gentle hug. "Bye, girlfriend," he said after you left. My phone rang again. It was Emily calling back. "You hung up on me, Zoe. You couldn't wait, huh?" She teased. "You better take it slow. Don't scare the poor guy off." Her voice was loud on purpose, like she wanted someone next to her to hear. I lowered my voice and asked, "What are you playing at now?" "Guess." She replied, her voice bright with mischief, and then I understood Ryan was right there next to her. Emily laughed freely on the other end. "Zoe, there's this idiot here trying to drink himself into a coma. Want to come see him with your new man?" By the time I got to the bar, Ryan was already so drunk he could barely stay upright, yet he was still downing shot after shot like he was possessed. "How much has he had?" I asked. Emily rolled her eyes. "Don't he look at us? He insisted on drinking like this." Daniel tried to stop him, but no use. Daniel was sweating bullets. "Zoe, I'm really sorry to drag you out so late. Ryan's had way too much. He kept calling your name. We couldn't stop him at the sound of my name." Ryan raised his head from the mountain of empty bottles. His dazed, bloodshot eyes landed on me. "Zoe, I didn't move." Ryan struggled to push off the couch, dragging himself over and grabbing my wrist. "Why did you block me?" he asked. He suddenly pulled hard and I stumbled back into the couch. His grip on my wrist tightened in his reddened eyes. Pain flashed for just a second. "Emily said you're dating someone," he muttered. I didn't believe it. Then she said, "You posted it on your feet. I checked and saw you blocked me." He stared at me, voice hoarse, breath warm against my neck. "Zoe, that guy from this afternoon, is it him?" If he had reached out to me just once in the past few months, he could have known, but he never did. Of course not. Ryan Sullivan would never lower himself to reach out to someone like me. Not even once. Just like all those years, no matter how small our disagreements were, I was always the one to make the first move to fix things. I'd humbled myself to the ground and he had the nerve to call it throwing myself at him. People who trample on genuine feelings don't deserve to receive them again. "Yes, it's him. We just made it official today. I'll introduce you next time," I said calmly. Ryan let out a low, mocking laugh with his eyes still closed. "Zoe, lying has never been your strong suit. Official today. What a coincidence. You think I won't see right through this attempt to provoke me?" I looked at him steadily. "It really is just a coincidence. He's still a student. He has class tomorrow. That's why he didn't come with me tonight. I'm busy. Ryan, I don't have time to play childish games just to get a rise out of you, eh?" Shadow passed through his eyes. "Zoe, I'm not stupid. You've liked me for so many years. I felt it, and now in just a few short months, you're telling me you're in love with someone else. Are you playing me or are you playing yourself?" He yanked me forward, holding me against his chest like he wanted to devour me whole. So all this time he knew I liked him for years. He never gave me a clear answer, neither accepting nor rejecting me. He just let me care for him, let me hover in that grey area between friends and lovers, let me lie awake at night wondering what he really felt. But love, real love, can't be hidden if it's not there. You can feel that. Too, I couldn't believe I didn't understand that sooner. Ryan, I get tired. Too, I want to be cared for. I want to be someone's priority. I want someone who truly cherishes what I feel. He scoffed. So what? You're just grabbing on to the next thing you can. Finto, feel secure. You don't really like him, do you? At the thought of Jesse, a warmth bloomed in my chest. No, I do like him. Ryan's face darkened instantly. Zoe, don't look at me like that. It makes me want to kill someone. I sighed. Ryan, stop. Grace is already. You don't need to act like you're upset I've fallen for someone else. His eyes flashed. So this is about Grace. You're doing this on purpose. I shook my head and pulled up our last chat, my final message with Grace, and showed him the screen. Do I still need to explain? He stared at my phone, his face going pale. That night I drank a lot with her. I don't remember what happened afterward. When I woke up, drinking isn't an excuse. Ryan, we're adults. We have to take responsibility for what we do. I know the timing's wrong, he said, almost desperate. But Zoe, I like you. I really do. His voice trembled. His eyes misted over. He gripped my shoulders tightly. I stared at him silently. Then I pried his fingers off me one by one. Don't insult the word love. Ryan, I'm glad I don't like you anymore. Emily and Daniel were getting married. I was a bridesmaid, and Ryan had told me earlier was going to be the groomsman. Had looked apologetic when he told me, saying Daniel and I have been best friends since high school. I took it in stride. After all, our apartments were just one wall apart. Even without the wedding, I'd still run into him again and again. Avoiding him forever wasn't realistic. Besides, I had a handsome, possessive little wolf by my side. Jess's eyes darkened as he leaned in close and said, "Take me to the wedding with you." Jesse, it's not what you think. There's nothing between me and Ryan anymore. No need to be jealous. He hooked his arm around me neck and pulled me into his arms, brushing a soft kiss against my lips. I just want to see how bad your taste used to beat the hotel. Emily froze for a moment when she saw me arrive with Jesse. Emily immediately pulled me over and whispered in my ear, "You sneaky girl, you're eating this well now." Jesse rubbed the space between his eyebrows and gave a helpless smile, which, of course, set off another round of fangirling gasps from Emily. He had dressed up today, swapping his usual sporty clothes for a sharp black suit. The change gave him a more refined, mature look. Zoe's here. Daniel waved at me from across the room. Standing next to him was Ryan, whose face looked dark enough to rain. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" Ryan said coolly, his gaze sharp and cold as it landed on Jesse. Then he froze, tilting his head. He studied Jess's face, and suddenly his expression changed. "You're that underclassman from 3 years ago, the one who tried to give Zoe a love letter." All three of us, Emily, Daniel and I, looked at Ryan in disbelief. Jesse raised his chin, one eyebrow arching. "Impressive memory, senior. Just one encounter, and you still remember it after 3 years. My job practically hit the floor." I pointed to myself. "Wait, who gave who a love letter?" Jesse gave me a mock hurt look. "Can't he blame you for forgetting me? I guess back then the only person you had eyes for was him, and I couldn't even argue. I remembered someone trying to hand me a letter, but before I could even see who it was, Ryan had stormed over, dragged me away and tore up the note, his face twisted with anger. I'd actually been kind of flattered back then, thinking maybe he was jealous. I found myself leaning closer to Jesse and gently patting his head. "I'm sorry. From now on, I'll only look at you, okay?" His eyes flickered for a moment and then he pulled me into a kiss, soft but purposeful, right on the lips. When he pulled away, he glanced toward Ryan with a smug look. "I'm her boyfriend now. If I still can't get her full attention, then I must be doing something wrong." Tension crackled in the air. Emily looked nervously at Daniel. "Honey, are they going to fight and ruin our wedding?" Daniel replied calmly, "They won't. They still have reputations to maintain. Well, they didn't fight. But that didn't explain why I ended up trapped between two angry-faced giants who seemed determined to outdo each other." Jesse picked up a piece of meat and placed it in my bowl. Ryan followed with a piece of fish. Jesse told me I should eat more greens for vitamins. Ryan countered that soy products were better for nutrition. In no time, my bowl was overflowing vein and Jess's temple visibly twitched. "Senior, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to use your chopsticks to serve my girlfriend?" Ryan didn't flinch. "Zoe and I have always been like this since we were kids. If you can't handle that, there's the door." I slammed my overflowing bowl onto the side dish plate. "Enough. Both of you, I don't want to eat anymore." Then I turned to Ryan. "Can you please stop? I don't want to make a scene and embarrass you in public." His smile faded slightly, lips tightening. "Zoe, is there really no chance left for me?" This was Ryan, usually aloof, now showing rare vulnerability and sorrow on his face. "Can you give me a fair chance?" He asked. We've known each other for so many years. Don't he sentence me to death over one mistake? I almost laughed. You slept with someone else. How am I supposed to give you another chance? Ryan looked utterly defeated. That night was a mistake. I swear it will never happen again. The day we ran into each other at the complex. That was the day I ended things with Grace. I told her that the person I like now. I haven't contacted her since. Zoe, I really want to be with you. Jessie let out a low, incredulous laugh. This is the big rival I was supposed to worry about. Just another jerk who can't keep it in his pants. Ryan's jaw tightened, molars clenched as he glared, face stiff with rage. You haven't even graduated yet, have you? You're just a student, Ryan said coldly. What kind of future can you offer Zoe? You can't even be sure you can support yourself. I'm different. Whatever Zoe wants in life, I have the means to give her. What right do you have to compete with me? Jessie leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, an expression of pride and confidence on his face. I'm a Harvard student. No matter where I end up, I'll never be worthless. Whatever you can do, I can do just as well or even better, because Zoe will always be my first priority. If I can't give her the life she deserves, I won't forgive myself, and that's something you'll never be able to match. He paused and added, there's a joke that the best gift a man can offer a woman is his chastity, but from the looks of it, you've already lost that, haven't you, senior? With that, Jessie stood up, took my hand and said, let's go. I grabbed my purse and coat. Ryan suddenly grabbed my wrist again. Zoe, it's been 10 years. Can you really let me go just like that? I looked at his tear-reddened eyes, gently pulled my hand away and said, maybe I'm just tired of chasing someone who never cared enough to meet me halfway. Later, Daniel sent me a text. He said, Ryan had gotten completely drunk at the wedding. By the time Daniel was free to check on him, Ryan had passed out, face pale and unconscious. Even while unconscious, he kept repeating my name over and over. I replied simply, I'm not a doctor. I can't help him. Take him to the hospital. It took Daniel a long time to respond. Zoe, I messed up badly. I'm sorry. But by then, it didn't matter who sent the message. I locked my phone and let Jessie intertwine his fingers with mine as we strolled through Harvard's busy campus grounds. Do you remember? He asked. 3 years ago. This was where we met. I rubbed my nose. Embarrassed, Jessie noticed and gently pulled me into his arms. It's okay if you don't remember. I'll tell you the story myself. 3 years ago, I was playing basketball on the court. I chased a ball going out of bounds too fast, slipped and crashed hard. I couldn't even stand. Everyone panic. No one remembered to call the medic. Then you showed up. You pushed through the crowd, checked my leg and said it was an avulsion fracture. Calmly, you directed people to get ice, a splint, and find the school medic. When the medic arrived, you were already icing my leg. He said your first aid was so timely it kept the injury from swelling too badly. Then you helped him secure the splint. You were so calm, so composed, so gentle. Even though I was in pain, something about your presence made everything feel safe. That moment burned itself into my memory. When I recovered, I mustered the courage to give you a love letter, and then someone ripped it to shreds right in front of me. Jessie laughed, then muttered, I should have punched him in the face that day. Who does that? Tears up my letter like he owns you. He sighed, the corners of his lips curling into a smile. I never imagined I'd get to see you again 3 years later. When I saw you sitting there alone in the library, Zoe, you don't know how thrilled I was. I'm just glad I was brave enough again. As Jessie spoke, his face glowed like the morning sun, warm and bright with hope. Same place, similar crowd. In that moment, it was as if time folded in on itself, and I saw the pained, limping boy holding his ankle from years ago blend into the young man beside me now, smiling, steady, arms wrapped around me, and I realized fate had already been written. I was just lucky I didn't show up too late.